I'm thrilled to be sitting here with the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee, Congressman Bruce Westerman from the 4th District of Arkansas, which I'll let you describe it better than me, but you're sort of the southwest chunk of the state. Man who grew up hunting and fishing and has taken that passion over to the House Natural Resources Committee and a lot of the work you do here in Congress. So welcome, Mr. Chairman. Thrilled to be able to have a discussion with you.
Well, it's great to be here and to talk about one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, I imagine there's maybe less personal interest topics you get to talk about a lot of times.
Maybe the only thing better than talking about fishing is actually fishing.
Yeah, although I'll say we had a staff trip earlier this week out on the bay where it was more talking than fishing, but hopefully next time will be better.
Well, there's a difference between fishing and catching as
yes.
well.
Yeah. That is why they call it fishing, exactly.
Right.
So have you been fishing any lately?
I went fishing last weekend. I was home, got home late, and too late, and you get extremely busy up here in DC, and you get on the plane heading home, and you're thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I thought, I think I can go fishing tomorrow. I was checking my calendar, and then it's like, it's too late to ask anybody to go fishing. So I got home, hooked my boat up in the dark, went to bed, got up at 4:30, and I was sitting on the water at daylight.
Is this Lake Ouachita?
Lake Ouachita,
yeah.
One
Stripers?
of my favorite places. So I was, it's time of year to catch stripers, and it was a calm morning. So I went out to where I've caught them breaking a lot of times in the past, but they weren't breaking. So I abandoned the striper fishing and went to the old standby of crappie fishing.
Gotcha. How'd you do?
I brought enough home for a meal. Yeah.
Have you invested in forward-facing sonar yet? Are you tapping into that technology?
I haven't, and it's a good thing I'm so preoccupied up here with work, because the time I think I should get one of those is when I'm fishing with a buddy that's got one.
Yeah.
And no more than I get to fish, I don't know that I actually need all of that. Plus, I've been able to catch fish just using a graph. I like to sink brush piles, mark those brush piles, and pull up and fish on them. But having fished with people that's got those forward-facing and scanning sonars, the technology really confirms a lot of things we've always thought. Like the fish will be right above the brush pile, and then they'll move over 20 feet. And if you don't have the sonar, you're still fishing there where they were. Yeah. But you can see them over here and flip over and start catching them again.
But you've been fishing there pretty much all your life, right? I mean, you know the water pretty well.
Since I was big enough to hold the fishing pole, a cane pole, I've been fishing.
Yeah.
I grew up in the country, and it was we had a creek at our house. We would fish in farm ponds. We would fish in, and if we left the house in a vehicle to go fishing somewhere, that was a big deal. Like there was a bigger river that we would go drive to and fish from the bank on that river, or we would. When my dad finally got a boat and we started going to the lake, I was just like in heaven. Yeah. When it was hunting season, we didn't fish as much, but the rest of the year we fished.
Yeah, if you're used to farm pond streams, seeing a large reservoir like that, it's like hard for your brain to wrap around, I'm sure.
Yeah, I couldn't, as a kid, I couldn't sleep the night before. It was just, it's like this vast area to go fish in, and there's still lots and lots of places on that lake that I haven't seen. And I've been fishing there for 50 some odd years.
Well, I mean, that's part of the allure that brings so many of us in, is that sort of unknown, the mystery of it all. Like there's this vast, you don't know where the fish are going to be, how big they're going to get, that there's an infinite area to explore.
Just one more cast.
Yeah.
If I could, I haven't been catching them, but just one more cast.
Yeah, exactly.
I just I had to switch the color of the bait and try this area, and it's so relaxing. It can be kind of stressful, but it's so relaxing too.
That one more cast, and then 10 casts later, right? This is the last one.
Or 2 hours later.
Yeah.
I can go by myself to the lake, put the boat in before daylight, and fish till dark. I've done that many times in my life, by myself.
Yeah.
And then if you got a friend with you, it's a great way to spend the day too.
I'm sure your staff love that when you're out on the water all day.
Well, there's places on the lake where cell phone service doesn't work.
Even better.
I may have even done some radio interviews from the lake
Oh,
before.
yeah, nice. Yeah. That's multitasking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're a big turkey hunter too, right? Did you get out this
Yeah,
spring?
that's a little bit of a sore subject this year. Yeah,
I've heard that from others. It's not just you.
I
It's been a
didn't,
tough season for a lot of people.
Didn't get to hunt a whole lot, and the turkeys were not cooperative when I hunted. I was flying to D.C. this week, and a friend of mine and his son from South Arkansas were on the plane coming up here, and I knew Andrew liked to turkey hunt. I said, Andrew, how'd you do this year? He said, I got 5 this year. I'm like, what?
You heard 5 or you got 5?
No, he said, I killed 2 in Mississippi, 2 in Arkansas, and 1 in Kansas. I'm like, good for you, Andrew.
Yeah.
6th grader, 12 years old.
Wow. Yeah, that can be humbling.
Yeah, but good for him, and you know, what a great kid. He came up and spent some time with me. I took him out on the house floor, and he was shaking people's hands, introducing himself, looking them in the eye. And you know, there's getting kids involved in hunting and fishing is so important. Mm-hmm. It teaches them so many good things and keeps them from doing bad things. When I was growing up, there was a saying like, you know, if a kid's hunting and fishing, they're not getting into trouble with other stuff. That didn't hold true 100% of the time, but there was a lot of wisdom in that.
Less likely to get in trouble with other things. Yeah.
Right.
Well, so for you, how has that, I mean, your experience growing up in the outdoors, hunting and fishing, and now working in Congress, how have you sort of carried that passion, interest in the outdoors to the work you're doing now?
Well, it's been a lifelong trip for me, I would say, and having gone to forestry school and gotten an education on something that's very nature-based and outdoors that affects hunting and fishing, and then being able to come here to Congress and you know, work hard and got to be the lead Republican, now chairing the House Natural Resources Committee, which basically all the federal laws that have to do with hunting and fishing fall under the Natural Resources Committee. And I'm like a kid in a candy store when I get to work on that. I can get very frustrated because I know how important hunting and fishing is. I know I think the economic benefits are just a side benefit to hunting and fishing. I think it's good for Americans' health, for their outlook, for their well-being to be able to hunt and fish. So when I see barriers put up that's going to limit access, it's going to make it cost more or make it harder for somebody to be able to afford to take their kids out into the outdoors or not have a place to take them, I get very passionate about that.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, representing the sport fishing industry, obviously we talk a lot about the economics, but we've got as an industry such a great story to tell because you layer on top of that, you know, the conservation impacts that our industry and the community put towards aquatic resource conservation, access, all the things to keep this going. The social benefits, you know, being outdoors, connecting with nature, how that translates to other skills in life. And then, the economic impact, supporting communities around the country. But you have to have access. And, you know, a lot of what we struggle with, and I know you're aware of too, is there's not necessarily this big kind of existential threat to fishing of, you know, we don't have a massive, we just want to ban fishing campaign. It's more the death by 1,000 cuts that we often have to, you know, reinforce the importance of, you know, once you start chipping away at this, it's going to lead to a quick erosion.
You know, long before I got into Congress, I was doing engineering and forestry work, and I was doing a project in Scotland. And we stayed at, well, I would call it like a lodge or a hotel, and it was on a famous river there. And these people were coming in from London, and they were fly fishing in the river, and it looked very, you know, like it came out of a storybook or something. But these people were wearing clothes and had fishing gear that probably cost more than some people's four-wheelers do. I mean, it was very high-end and staying in a very expensive place. And what I saw was there weren't just normal people out there fishing. And they had, you could go on a bird hunt, and, you know, they had the tall leather boots and the corduroy pants and all of that. And it was neat to see it, but it was also kind of disheartening to know that just the elite had access to places to hunt and fish there.
Yep.
At least in that particular place. And I never want to see that happen in the United States.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people who come from humble backgrounds and their families aren't extremely rich, that is their form of entertainment. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to, you know, there's people where I live that if they were to get to fish in the ocean one time, that would be a huge deal to them.
Right. And
so having local places to hunt and fish, that's very important.
Yeah, and the more barriers you put up, and oh no, this isn't that big of a deal. You know, it's just a little bit extra to spend to do it, or you got to drive further. You know, those add up. They make a difference. Right. At some point, people are going to have to find something else to do, or and that's why we need, you know, folks like you that are looking out for all those different policies and making sure we're not chipping away at those things. But you mentioned your engineering, forestry background. I remember years ago, it was around 2016. I joined you at one of our members, Pradco, there in Fort Smith. Yeah. And you also mentioned Kid in a Candy Store. I mean, that was like touching on all sorts of different interests of yours, of sort of the engineering background, seeing the mechanics of how a lot of these lures
make fishing baits.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was, I need to get back over there and see what's happening at Pradco again. It's not in my district, but a lot of my constituents work there.
Yeah, I remember about half of their employees were in your district. Yeah, and they've grown quite a bit since then, so we'll have to get you back over there. Yeah, I could tell your just eyes were, you know, wide open, taking all that in.
Yeah, it's like, you know, going to your favorite bait and tackle store. My wife is like, how long can you stay in there? I said, just as long as you can be in the department store looking at shoes. Yeah.
It's always good to go in there and dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about some of the work that you have been doing in the committee this year, or this Congress. You know, there's been a lot of good activity around so many priorities of ours. You know, you and your staff have been great to work with. It's funny you mentioned just about all issues impacting fisheries and hunting come through your committee. Even though you all have taken a lot of interest in this North Atlantic right whale vessel speed rule, we've got a bill that we're trying to get your committee more involved in. But, you know, that's a long ways from Arkansas, but I know you recognize the significance of what NOAA Fisheries has proposed of essentially taking the entire Atlantic Ocean and for any boat above 35 feet, effectively making offshore fishing off limits for half the year. I've heard from a lot of members who have said that's one of the crazier, more extreme rule, whatever adjective you want to use, that they've seen up here. It's obviously a huge impact for our industry, but I guess if you can share sort of your thoughts and perspectives on that rule and maybe kind of how that fits into sort of broader challenges you see with federal agency implementation of these types of issues.
Yeah, I'm going to try to remain very diplomatic as I talk about that rule, because as you described it, I felt my blood pressure go up, and like you said, it's not where I live, but it's denying access to sport fishermen and women and recreational boating, and it's dumb. I'll leave it at that. I was with Senator Manchin a few weeks ago, and he had a great idea. He said should take all of those bureaucrats, put them on a boat, set it's at 9 miles an hour, 9 knots, and take them out 90 miles offshore and let them hang out for a few hours and then turn around and drive back at 9 knots. I mean, it's totally out of touch with reality. It's totally not based on any kind of scientific evidence. And for them to put those restrictions in place show you just how out of touch the bureaucracy in DC can be. And you know, I'm angry for the people that are having to suffer from that. And I know, you know, they're trying to do it in the Gulf of Mexico too.
Yeah, the Rice's whale.
Yeah, and that they were just giddy the other day saying they got a picture of a Rice's whale. So they think. But you know, if you've ever been down and went red snapper fishing, I've been out of Port Fourchon a few times, and you can literally go 90 miles offshore, catch a limited snapper, and be back by lunch if they're biting good.
Right.
If they put these restrictions in place, you're going to destroy that kind of fishing.
Right.
You're going to destroy people's livelihoods. You're not going to do any. You're going to hurt the fishery. it's just so many bad things about that, yet they're doubling down on it. And that's kind of, unfortunately, is the path that a lot of these federal agencies are taking. The Fish and Wildlife, they did a bill or a rule to say you can't use agriculture practices on a fish and wildlife refuge, which means, like in Arkansas, I think of Hall of Bend National Wildlife Refuge. It's a duck or waterfowl resting area that they usually plant crops and flood them, and the ducks come in and rest there.
We touched on a few things I wanted to come back to, especially with the right whale issue. Sort of earlier on in a different context, we're talking about forward-facing sonar, but that's been one of our industry's huge frustrations. Is NOAA Fisheries is relying entirely on regulation of vessel speed when we've got a lot of smart folks in our industry, tremendous amount in the marine electronics space to be able to pinpoint pretty accurately in real time what's in the water around you. And we've spent a lot of time pulling those folks together, trying to synthesize all the different technologies that are out there that could be really effective at identifying right whales and avoid them that way. Don't just say we're going to close the entire ocean down whether there's a whale within 100 miles of you. But that would require the agency sitting down and working with the industry and sort of talking through, working through these challenges.
I've asked them to produce documents on how many insurance claims there's been with small vessels hitting whales. And I don't think they ever thought about checking that out.
Yeah.
But if you hit a whale going at any speed, it's probably going to do some damage to your boat.
You're gonna know about it. Yeah.
I'm guessing they're going to find there hasn't been any of those collisions. But again, it's like they're pulling things out of the air or out of somewhere else and throwing them out there and seeing what will stick.
Yeah.
And that's no way to manage fisheries. We see these well-meaning laws that have been put in place over time that just get weaponized. And that's so sad and so unfortunate because these laws were put in place to actually help marine mammals, like the Marine Mammal Protection Act. And it gets weaponized to shut down energy exploration. It gets weaponized to satisfy some animal rights group. I've spent a lot of time out west. I was on the Nisqually River with the Nisqually tribe. They were showing me their salmon fishery and all the research that they're doing because they want to introduce more salmon into their diet. And they have hatchery and everything. And this is you can't blame this on anything else. The Nisqually is an unobstructed river, no dams in it, free-flowing river, comes off of Mount St. Helens, goes out to Puget Sound. Yet their salmon population is getting devastated. So they put little trackers in the salmon, and they were recovering 95% of their trackers in California sea lion dung on the banks at Puget Sound. And people said California sea lions had never before really been seen in Puget Sound, but because of the restrictions put in by the Marine Mammal Protection Act, they've been forced further up the coast, and now they're coming in Puget Sound. And when we came down the river in the boat, it was just solid sea lion heads. It was like they formed a sea lion net across the river. And I mean, you could easily see why a fish couldn't get through there.
Yeah. And they don't have to work hard for those meals either.
No, and then people want to blame somebody else.
Yeah.
They won't accept that the dumb rule you've put in place is causing the population of sea lions to get too big, and it's devastating salmon.
Yeah.
That Native Americans depend on.
I don't know that when Congress enacted Endangered Species Act, Marine Mammal Protection Act, they contemplated, well, what do you do when the marine mammal's eating the endangered species? That's where best intentions versus the practical realities of how these things play out. You need some flexibility and the ability to adapt.
And you need common sense.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, you mentioned the Fish and Wildlife Service earlier, and that the BITA regulation you were referring to. Another one that we've been scratching our heads about a lot is lead fishing tackle and also ammunition. So that's another rule that the Fish and Wildlife Service has continued to double down on.
Based on nothing other than an itch somebody wanted to scratch, I guess.
We've asked repeatedly for the science of what's going on in these specific refuges.
As chairman of the committee, I've asked repeatedly for it, and I do have subpoena power, but they don't have it.
Right.
If I subpoenaed it, they couldn't give it to me because they don't have it.
Right. It doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've heard you will just agree to disagree. I'm like, well, no, I don't even know what point you're making because you haven't
Right.
provided any science.
You've got somebody that doesn't like hunting and fishing that's over sitting in the White House or the Department of Interior or wherever you're at in your ear saying, put this regulation in place because we don't like hunting and fishing.
Yeah. So you all have passed a bill that would, to your point of common sense, use common sense in how these decisions need to be made. You know, it needs to be based on science. We need to actually know if there's a wildlife problem in these areas that's caused by lead tackle. And we also need to work with state fish and wildlife agencies since they have jurisdiction over the wildlife in these areas by and large. So we've gotten that through the House, so thank you for your leadership, and hopefully we can get the Senate to take that one up too. But it's unfortunate you have to get Congress to tell a federal agency, you know, use common sense, base your decisions on science, coordinate with your state fish and wildlife partners.
Right.
But that's where we're at.
It's just another example of an out of control bureaucracy. But it has negative effects on people. I mean, I've bought plenty of ammunition that's not lead ammunition, and you pay a lot more for it. You can buy non-lead fishing tackle, and you're going to pay a lot more for it. So and you know, some bureaucrat sitting here in D.C. where the economy is doing phenomenal, where you see construction cranes everywhere, and they got their cushy government job. They'll say, "Well, it's only a little bit. It doesn't matter." Well, tell that to some blue-collar worker that wants to take his kid fishing, that's already paying an outrageous price for groceries and fuel, that we're going to make your fishing tackle and ammunition cost more as well.
Yeah, and when they ask why, you can't even give them a reason why.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, maybe if you could make a valid reason, here's a good science-based conservation reason why, and they would say, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But you can't. I can't explain to them.
Right.
Only thing I can explain to them is some zealot in the bureaucracy.
Well, we talk a lot in the natural resource space about durable decision making, and you know, whether you agree with the path that some of these things are going down or not, you know, I would argue they're not durable because you've got so much resistance, so much lack of buy-in, other agencies, you know, that aren't agreeing with the decision that, you know, it's just not a good way to do natural resource management, where you just sort of take an extreme approach. You sort of hide behind general law, giving you direction to do it, but you haven't built the case and the buy-in to do it. And I imagine you see that a lot of places too.
Yep, and I keep having a vision of those guys in their corduroy pants and their starched shirts going out with their fishing pole. And it's going to become an elitist activity if we keep going down this road. Yep.
We need to make it accessible for everyone. Reduce barriers, not add more barriers on top of it.
You know, we saw an uptick in the sale of hunting and fishing license, which goes directly for conservation in states. We saw that during the pandemic. And with all the troubles that kids have these days, sitting on their phones all the time, it seems like we should do everything we could to try to get more kids in the outdoors and get them hunting and fishing and realizing there's something more to life than some social media platform.
Right. And when we do have the need for, you know, if there's a fishery sustainability issue, you know, generally anglers are the first ones to step up and say, we need something. You know, there's a role for management and regulation, but it needs to be based on good science. And ultimately, you know, unless there's a good solid need for it, let's not make things more difficult and less accessible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to end on the policy stuff on a happier note. So we've been very thankful and appreciative of your leadership on the Explore Act, which you and Ranking Member Grijalva have teamed up on, which I think is an indication of, you know, how much good stuff's in this bill, you know, how much support this would provide for public lands around the nation. It feels like we're close. I'd sort of look to you, you know, we're sort of working to get Four Corners Agreement. What's the latest on getting that one across the finish line?
Well, you know, it's good policy when it's bipartisan, it passed out of the committee unanimously, and it passed off of the House floor by voice vote, which means it passed unanimously out of the House, and it's a big bill.
Right.
It's not just a renaming a post office or something. This is a wide range of legislation that, again, is bipartisan, it's focused on giving people more access to the outdoors. Whether you're a mountain biker, a rock climber, whether you like to camp, having, not getting caught in the duress of getting permits to go out into the outdoors. It's multiple ideas that we put into one bill that I'm really excited about. It's the first time in my understanding, there's ever been a big outdoor recreation bill like this.
Yep.
So it's in the Senate. Every senator that I talk to seems to like it, and I don't know why it's not on President Biden's desk by now, but you'll have to go interview a senator about that.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, we're getting close, just sort of some fine details being worked out.
Yeah.
But in terms of all the different aspects of the outdoor recreation industry, this benefits. It's really a rising tide lifts all boats type of thing. If you're making it easier, more accessible, better information on where and how to go recreate in these areas, that benefits everyone. And again, credit to you and your staff for what is a pretty big, substantial bill to pull all those pieces together to get everybody to where there's not been a single bit of objection to it, to my knowledge. We could use a few more like you, but it's good to have you up here, especially in the position you're in.
Appreciate that, and appreciate all the great work that you all do and the advocacy. And you talked about the great staff that I have. Well, they rely a lot on experts in many different organizations, and I appreciate that two-way street of communication that we've got.
Absolutely. Yep. It's been good partnership. Hopefully we get more stuff done.
You bet.
So, all right. Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman, for your time, and I look forward to continuing to work together over the rest of the Congress and beyond.
Same here. Thank you.